In 2008, the newest Call of Duty game launched, taking a step away from the modern setting and going back to World War II in a game called World at War. The game built upon the multiplayer introduced in Modern Warfare, a more blockbuster-style story in the campaign, and also launched with a surprising new game mode called Nazi Zombies. While starting off as a mere side mode, it spawned a massive following, grew into one of the most prominent staples of the series, and in the decade following, weaved itself one of the most confusing and mind-bending stories in gaming history. But it all had to start somewhere, and that's where we start this journey, in World at War. Today starts a new series where I'll be uncovering the Call of Duty Zombies storyline from the very beginning. Yes, it's true, there's dozens of storyline explained videos here on YouTube when it comes to this game mode, but given as how most of them are chronological, I want to start where we, as fans of the mode, all started. If this seems a bit daunting to read, or if you don't want to watch a 6-hour video explaining everything chronologically, then that's where I come in and where this series comes in. As the story expands, I'll be explaining new characters, events, and theories just as I remember them growing up. After the story portion of the video, I'll go briefly into the theories and a few gameplay elements, as well as how the zombies community started growing and continued to grow. Maybe you're a fan of this storyline, maybe just a fan of the games, or maybe you're just looking for a new zombies story to latch onto. Whatever the case may be, I've got you covered. I'm not going to be going over every single detail in this universe. I have actually read through all of this. I've watched all those 6+ hour videos and they're great. They're incredibly detailed, but they're also incredibly daunting. So I'm not going to go over every single detail, I'm not going to go into the radios and what they say, but I am going to go into every detail that I found to be important to the overall storyline. Think of something like the Harry Potter books versus the movies. The books have so much extra stuff that the movies don't, but unlike the Harry Potter books, I don't think that this extra stuff is actually necessary to understand the story. It more so just confuses or adds extra plots that don't pay off or even make that much sense. There's also quite a few gaps in the zombie storyline, so when necessary, I'm going to make my own inferences to connect the dots on a few of the smaller plot points. So is this the definitive zombie storyline? No, I wouldn't say that at all, but is this a video series that talks about the storyline and why I love it so much? Absolutely it is. If you're looking for a more mysterious way to immerse yourself in this world and experience the story, then this is the video for you and this is the series for you. So grab your headphones, maybe a snack or two, maybe even a notebook as we journey into the world of Call of Duty Zombies. We start in 1945 in our first map, Nach der Untoten. We see 4 American soldiers crash land outside of a German bunker, where they are attacked by none other than the undead themselves. The group, led by Tank Dempsey, takes shelter in the bunker, finding these mysterious chalk drawings of weapons on the walls and even a box that produces a random weapon. They hold off the hordes of the undead, and sometime later they continue their mission, heading to an asylum where they find more of these weapon drawings and even soda machines that enhance their abilities to fight the undead. Though it seems even with this additional equipment, it's too much for these American soldiers, all except for Tank Dempsey, who's knocked unconscious and captured by an unseen force. So the first question, what was this mission that these soldiers were on? That's where we have to talk about Peter McCain, another American soldier who was sent undercover to investigate Group 935, a mysterious German organization led by Dr. Ludwig Maxis and Edward Richthofen. Now, Peter McCain's cover was blown, and it was Tank Dempsey's job to get him out because what Peter discovered about Group 935 was both incredibly important and incredibly dangerous. So years earlier, asteroids crash onto the Earth housing a new element called Element 115. This element contained a number of properties that could improve the human condition, advance technology, and a number of other things. Dr. Ludwig Maxis formed Group 935 to study this element and its properties. Maxis invited Dr. Edward Richthofen to join the team, to which he accepted. Group 935 built a station to conduct these experiments called the Der Reese facility in Breslau, Germany. In the years to come, Maxis and Richthofen would experiment with Element 115, making the first ever teleporter and even a weapon called the Wunderwaffe that utilized this element. However, the weapon and the teleporter were both unstable, and Group 935 ultimately needed more funding, so Maxis turned to the Nazi Party for help. The Nazi Party agreed to help, specifically interested in Element 115's ability to reanimate the dead. Richthofen wasn't too thrilled with the idea of the Nazis funding their projects, worried that they would interfere with their progress and goals that they had in mind. So Richthofen and another scientist named Dr. Schuster continued working on projects of their own. The two doctors actually successfully teleported a walnut, but Maxis wasn't impressed and continued to seek the support of the Nazi Party. But Richthofen and Schuster continued their own projects behind Maxis's back, conducting the first human teleportation test, the subject being none other than Richthofen himself. The teleportation was successful, kinda teleporting Richthofen to the moon, where he encountered a large black pyramid. The pyramid would later be referred to as the MPD. While he was inspecting the device, Richthofen was electrocuted, hearing voices in his head, and also teleported once again to mountains in the Himalayas. The natives he encountered worshipped Richthofen like a god, and while he was in the Himalayas, Richthofen found an artifact that held great power called the Focusing Stone. These voices in Richthofen's head would not disappear, and ultimately, Richthofen was slowly driven insane. Richthofen then somehow returns to the Derice facility a few weeks later, and with his newfound knowledge and the voices in his head, suggested that they build another Group 935 station, this time on the moon. As crazy as he sounded, a lot of the other scientists were fed up with Maxis's alignment with the Nazis, so they joined Richthofen's cause. But Maxis was successful in his partnership with the Nazis, so much so that when he asked for the funding to build more research facilities, they complied, building the Kino facility, a repurposed theater, Eagle's Nest, a repurposed castle in Siberia, and an asylum facility. The Japanese army also had their own version of Group 935 called Division 9, both of their purposes to investigate Element 115, so Division 9 and Group 935 collaborated together at the Rising Sun facility in Japan. At the Rising Sun facility, Maxis was successful in creating yet another wonder weapon, the ray gun. Maxis's associate, H. Porter, was also working on a second generation model, though it wouldn't be finished until much later. But Richthofen was also successful with his own group, somehow building a facility on the moon known as Griffin Station. Richthofen appointed Dr. Groff and his friend Schuster to lead this facility and charged them with figuring out the secrets of the MPD. Around this time, some soldiers returned from Africa with strange artifacts and presented them to Group 935. There were schematics of a number of devices, but the most important two were the Pack-a-Punch and the Vril device, otherwise known as the Golden Rod. Richthofen had Maxis's associate H. Porter replicate the schematics of the Pack-a-Punch, creating the device at the Derice facility. Group 935 also created medical beverages known as Juggernog, Quick Revive, Speed Cola, and Double Tap. At the Moon facility, Griffin Station, Dr. Schuster and Groff were hard at work trying to figure out how the MPD works. Frustrated by their lack of development, Dr. Schuster killed a rat near the device. Its death unexplainably began charging the device, filling up a vial beside the MPD. Schuster and Groff reported their research to Richthofen, who began sending soldiers and scientists alike to be sacrificed in order to charge the MPD. It was at this time that the feud between Maxis and Richthofen began to boil over, Maxis expressing his concerns of the effect that Element 115 has had on Richthofen. Maxis was transferred to the Kino facility with his assistant Sophia to focus on creating the Nazis' undead army, Maxis leaving his daughter, Samantha, with Richthofen, which is a strange thing to do. Leave your daughter with a man you don't trust, but hey, no one's perfect. With Richthofen now in charge of the Derice facility, he was free to conduct experiments as he saw fit to do, so he looked through his catalog of prisoners that the Nazis had captured over the course of the war and chose Nikolai Belinsky, Takeo Masaki, and Pablo Moranis for his experiments. The same year, the word about Group 935 experiments must have traveled because the Americans sent in an undercover operative to learn all about this information, and that informant was Peter McCain. Peter would travel with Richthofen to a Siberian facility, learning everything that he could about the experiments being conducted when a reporter would be arrested near the facility. Richthofen interrogated the reporter, asking him what he was looking for, and the reporter told him that he was hired by a man named Mr. Rapt, and that Rapt was looking for the golden rod. Richthofen, confused about how anybody would even know about the golden rod, executed the reporter. Around this time, Peter McCain's cover would be blown, and Tank Dempsey would be sent in to get him out, bringing us caught up to the events at the start of the game and Dempsey captured at the asylum facility. Tank was brought to the Siberian facility where Richthofen would continue his experiments on Tank, Nikolai, Takio, and Pablo. Richthofen's experiments on Pablo wouldn't exactly go to plan, so they dumped his body into the river, presuming he was dead. Richthofen continued experiments on his 3 remaining test subjects, all of them losing their memory in the process. Richthofen described Dempsey as somebody with low intellect but a strong will. Takio would be constantly staring at the floor, repeating the same Japanese proverb over and over again. And Nikolai would be unresponsive unless he was given vodka. While at the Siberian facility, Richthofen learned that Maxis didn't plan on mass-producing Richthofen's wonder weapon, the Wunderwaffe, in favor of his own creation, the ray gun. This drove whatever sanity Richthofen had remaining over the edge and vowed to destroy not only Maxis, but Maxis' daughter Samantha as well. With the war now over, Maxis and Richthofen returned to the Darice facility, Maxis saying that now they could continue their work on the teleporters. So Richthofen arrived back at Darice with his 3 test subjects, and also Maxis' daughter Samantha. Shortly after arriving, Richthofen also receives word from Dr. Schuster and Dr. Groff that the MPD has been activated and is just awaiting a conduit. So Maxis and Richthofen continue testing the teleportation device, Maxis unaware that Richthofen has already figured it out, and not knowing that Richthofen is planning to destroy him. So Maxis suggests that they use Samantha's dog Fluffy in their teleportation experiments, and it works, but also changes the dog into something entirely demonic. Samantha rushes into the room, seeing her dog, and runs into the teleporter. Maxis following behind her and into the teleportation chamber. Seeing his opportunity, Richthofen locks them in the chamber and teleports them away. Samantha gets teleported to the moon, where she somehow accidentally runs into the MPD and gets corrupted by the power held within it. The power of the dark ether. Dr. Groff immediately tells Richthofen what has happened, and Richthofen demands that they teleport Maxis to the moon so that way he can convince his daughter to come out of the MPD. So Maxis is teleported to the moon, but instead of telling her to come out of the device, he tells her to kill them all. With the power of the dark ether, Samantha can control the undead, so she unleashes the horde upon Griffin's station. All of those test subjects that were used are now reanimated, and they decimate not only Griffin's station, but every single one of Group 935's facilities. At the Darice facility, the horde begins to attack, and Richthofen enlists the help of his unlikely allies, Dempsey, Nikolai, and Takio, in order to escape the facility. With no recollection of who they are or who Richthofen is, they agree to help and they escape the facility. They make their way to the Rising Sun facility, where they're attacked yet again by a horde of zombies, but Tank Dempsey finds something familiar to him. He finds the body of Peter McCain, the man he was now unknowingly sent to rescue, and it jogs something in his mind, a memory. Richthofen collects his notes scattered throughout the Rising Sun facility and begins formulating his plan on how to take down Samantha Maxis. And that is the story of World at War Zombies. Now, it's worth mentioning that a lot of the story in World at War is very hidden. It has very little to do with the actual maps and is more introductory in a lot of senses. There's no cutscenes or really direct dialogue, and a lot of the story is only here because the later games go in depth about it, but the story needs to start somewhere, and this is that somewhere. The truth of the matter is that these maps were basically retconned into having a story, and because the maps were already made, they kind of had to find some way to connect the dots. But with this being only part 1 of the story, there's lots to take away in regards to theories. First up, what exactly is Richthofen's plan? He needs to take down Samantha Maxis, but how is he gonna do that? And if he takes her down, what's his next step? Eliminate all of the zombies or control them instead? If you're looking for hints, look at Richtofen's journey before he met the other three heroes. There are certain things he finds that may be the key to achieving his goal. Next up, how exactly did 935 make these Perca-Colas and wonder weapons? And for that matter, the mystery box and the chalk drawings. Are we supposed to just accept that Group 935 made these with element 115 and that's it? Maybe they're just gameplay enhancements, or are they something more? What happened to Pablo? Is he truly dead, or will he have some kind of importance in the story to come? Who was the reporter that Richtofen killed, and how did he know about the golden rod, and who is Mr. Rapt, the man who wanted the golden rod in the first place? What did Richtofen's experiments actually do to the trio? Are their memories permanently erased, or will they eventually remember who they are? And how will that factor into Richtofen's ultimate plan? Will they stay loyal to him, or will they turn on him? So in this game, the gameplay is more or less pretty simple. In Nocturne Toten, the first map, it was designed to be like a tower defense game. Board up the windows and try to hold them out for as long as you can before you eventually get overrun and backed into a corner. There truly was no story planned or even more maps to be made. This was just nice little icing on the cake that was World at War. When Nocturne Toten became ultra popular, the developers smartly decided to make some more maps. With Verrucht, they introduced the perk machines to enhance the gameplay and allow you to hold out for even longer than you would have beforehand. The map was also a bit bigger than Noct, allowing you some more room to roam, and almost entirely did away with the tower defense portion of the gameplay, opting for more exploration instead. The third map, Shinonuma, proved this even further by making it the biggest map yet, as well as other additions like traps and even a zipline that had little to no purpose. The biggest addition to Shinonuma was the fact that we got our playable characters in Richtofen, Dempsey, Nikolai, and Takio, proving that there was some semblance of a story starting to take place. Even though this map strangely takes place after the events of the next map, it was the third map in this game. We also got the Wunderwaffe as a wonder weapon, the first new wonder weapon after the ray gun. The final map, and one of my favorite maps of all time, is De Reese. The biggest addition to this map was the teleporters and, of course, the Pack-a-Punch. This map also contained the first mini Easter egg, more of like a prototype Easter egg than anything, but this would of course go on to become a staple in the series, just as big as the Pack-a-Punch itself. There was clearly some sort of storyline starting to form, but it would be years later until we understood the bigger picture. And that's World at War Zombies. If you enjoyed the explanation like this, even if you already know the story, please let me know that in the comments below. This isn't like a trick for engagement or anything. I really worked hard on this video. I bought a new computer to make this and all kinds of equipment. I want to know if this style works for you and if it did actually entertain you. If it did, then you should leave a like on the video, I'd greatly appreciate it. Keep an eye out for part 2 of this series when I discuss the zombie storyline in Black Ops 1. A subscribe is always welcome. If you do, then I'll see you in the next one.